So we'll move from one galaxy far, far away to another galaxy.
Yes.
And that is MTV's The Challenge, Spies, Lies, and Allies. So I've been thinking very deeply about our coverage of The Challenge, as you may refer to it as. And I think that, last season we jumped in. It was, you and I have watched The Challenge. We are veterans of viewing The Challenge. And
Yes.
we just kind of jumped in head first without any giving real context to what the hell this show is and why we're excited about it. And it's probably a little bit late in the game, especially a season and a half into The Challenge per our podcast. But I do think that it might not be a bad idea to, first of all, give a little bit of background on what The Challenge is, how we both got into it, and why people should check it out before we get into the actual breakdown of the episode.
Sure. Well, I mean, I got into it because I love the real world.
Right.
And so they used to have this show called Road Rules too.
Correct.
And they would take people from both these shows and put them in another house together and have them do, I hate to say similar challenges to these because they weren't. They were very minimal, low
intensity,
not a lot of money at stake. I mean, like literally it was like, you probably should just have a job and not do this because you're not really, and it became, it built up and it was still real world people and Road Rules people for a while. And then they started taking like people that are just fresh. And the part of the series was a fresh meat series. Yep. Yeah. So it was just people who auditioned for, basically it was the same people that auditioned for those two shows, but they just didn't get picked for those two shows, but MTV saw potential and that brought in a lot of other characters. Now, our favorite characters were all from the real world. CT, Wes, and Johnny Bananas. All had real world appearances. And if you go back in time, like Paula, was also in the real world.
Yeah. Leroy,
Nani,
all those folks.
And so these are, all MTV mainstays. I hate to say it this way, but MTV property too. I mean, these were just people that people knew from previous things. And, Road Rules slowly faded away. Right. Which I actually really liked Road Rules. And
yeah, me too.
That was weird.
When it was on, I honestly liked it more than Real World.
What was funny is those shows bounced between each other. So it's like when Road Rules was over, Real World would start up. So I was just excited for both. I don't know if I really had a favorite. I just really liked them both. And so eventually we got to what the challenge is today, which is all those old characters from those shows now mixed with other people from other reality shows across the world. And, for better or worse, that's what these shows are now. And I think one of the main reasons is just to get different viewers, to get your Big Brother viewers, to get your,
Survivor,
Love Island, whatever, Survivor, all that kind of stuff. And TJ Lavin has basically been there since the beginning. He wasn't there for the beginning of this. There was another person that did action sports, and I cannot think of his name. Mosley, yes. Yeah. He did it, and he was a good host too, actually. But TJ is the king of kings when it comes to these things. And so it's become this, which is a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. And I don't mean just the prize money. I mean, they're traveling these people all over the world. It used to just be like, someone's backyard and stuff. I mean, it really looked like
on
that.
A beach.
Now,
it was usually on the beach.
Right. Yeah. And so it was, the finances have really changed. You would definitely argue it's, MTV's, it's probably one of MTV's top 3 most popular shows, with, I think still like the teen mom shows do really well. And probably something I don't really know is probably up there, but this is definitely it's been around forever now. So, the fact that we've been watching
this is season, this is season 35, I think.
Yeah. So
it's
been around for a while. They usually do 2 seasons a year. So just like Survivor, I think those 2 seasons a year too.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that brings us to where we're at now, with a bunch of people from that, if you followed this show, and then a bunch of people that if you followed other shows or maybe don't know at all because they're like in Slovenia or something.
Yeah. But this show has it's spun off some pretty, big people. Mike the Miz, obviously started off on Real World. I think he was on a Real World, right? And then he's a multiple time challenge champion, and he's, gone on to be a WWE champion. Multiple time over. The Miz, big, he's a pretty big deal and he's headlined some like big pay-per-views and stuff. I'm not sure if he was on Tough Enough or not, which was another kind of reality thing. Johnny Bananas, who is now he has the First Look travel show, which airs after Saturday Night Live, and then he's also part of the Ringer reality podcast network with his podcast Death, Taxes, and Bananas. So, and there's been some other people who've kind of spun out to do sort of different things in various ways, but I think at the beginning, when it was still pretty new, when you and I got into it, it was very much like you said, it was an extension of the Real World. You know what I mean? The Real World and Road Rules were kind of the mainstays, and then the challenge was just sort of let's put these people together in a house and have them compete for but it's really just an extension of those shows. And as the challenge became more popular, then those shows kind of switched roles and became sort of the feeder program to the challenge. And you still had, people, I think when it started, you came for the drama, you came for the fights, you came for the random hookups with like strangers out in the world. You came for the shenanigans, right? Because it was just like watching the Real World, but instead of there being a cast of 5, it was like a cast of 20.
Right.
And then and we kind of talked about this in one of the episodes, as liability increased, some of those fun outings into the community decreased, as well as COVID, obviously, for the last 2 seasons. But they had even started that before COVID, and it became more serious. Before you had the people who were just there to drink and hang out and hook up and whatever. And now you see they take this seriously, like it's a job. They're training. There's weightlifting rooms and stuff that was never there at the beginning.
Oh my God. The only thing they were lifting was slices of pizza and beer in the early episodes. Yeah.
So, you still get a little bit of the drama. You still get a little bit of like the drunk, like a little bit with the hookups. You still get a little bit with the fighting. Obviously, it's always been a rule to never put your hands on another competitor, and that will get you kicked off the show. And that's happened. Happened this season even. But, I think it's become less of an extension of the Real World and become its like own competition type thing, in the same vein as Survivor. I still come for the characters, because even some of the new people that we've talked about, and we rip on them a lot on this podcast, but it makes me wonder, and that's why I would love to get somebody from the show on, is like, how much of a character are they playing versus how much are they actually being themselves? We give Fessy a hard time a lot, but he's kind of embraced that role of being the villain. You know what I mean? And so I kind of like, as much as like we give him crap, but I show up to see him because he's embraced that role of being the villain. You know what I mean?
I want him on every season. I mean, I'm like, we make fun of him, but I love to see when he's on. I want him to be on the show every year.
Yeah, I want him. I want Fessy. I want Josh. I want Kyle. I want Corey. I want Nelson. I want, and then obviously the older players that we've really grown up with, CT, Bananas, Wes. You want those guys. Like, those are the guys I want. I don't need like Gabo. No offense to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he's just not as interesting. So that's kind of it's not really an elevator pitch unless we're on an elevator to like the top of the Empire State Building. But that's sort of the pitch as to like what this show is and why you should maybe get into it. And it is a little probably late in the game for this season, but again, next season and that sort of thing. But we will move on to, and the other thing that I want to spend more time on is actually like breaking down some of the strategy or some of the politics of the game, rather than just saying like, well, such and such is a moron. Well, why are they a moron? You know what I mean? Aside from maybe what is the obvious, but in this week's episode, we get an old-fashioned mud pit brawl for the daily challenge. Players need to wrestle their soccer ball. I'm just calling them soccer balls because that's what they are. Yeah, they're not bombs.
They weren't bombs. No,
they're not bombs. They have to wrestle their soccer balls away from other teams, and the first team to collect a special ball wins. Corey passes the special ball to rookie Jeremiah, and Josh immediately assumes correctly that Corey is working with the rookies. The house vote comes down to Corey and Bettina versus Ashley and Ed. Corey and Bettina are voted in the agency, which is Logan and Nani, who won that challenge somehow. Throw in Jeremiah and Amber. The elimination will see teams scramble across an unbalanced balance beam and then solve a puzzle. Corey and Bettina are able to figure out a more efficient way to get across the balance beam after Amber and Jeremiah gas out and are unable to complete the challenge. Bettina is able to solve the puzzle and take the win.
So did I hear Corey say correctly they were here for 3 hours on that final thing?
Did you? I don't.
I feel like he said,
"Well, you really?"
I think I heard him say that we've been here for 3 hours, and it's good to like finish this off. If they literally, and I don't care so much about them having to do that for 3 hours. If the other people had to stand there and watch that for 3 hours, good. Oh my God, may God have mercy on their souls. That was incredible. I was getting annoyed watching it for 10 minutes. And I was just like 30 minutes or 3 hours. I don't know. My thing is, I don't know if it was like from the time they got voted in till that, which that could be 3 hours. I don't know. But if it was just that competition,
if I can find that out. I'll see.
As I didn't have time to rewind it because I always watch this right before I go into work. So it's like I'm on the press on that one. But yeah, that was, I thought this was, you and I have talked about classic episodes. I thought this was a pretty good classic episode where you get, a mud pit challenge, shenanigans about, no one, like, it wasn't a fair win at the end for that.
It was negotiated.
And which is part of the game. And then, a pretty decent challenge to end everything, elimination challenge to kind of, it was new. It was difficult. It really test the limits of people. It was one of those things where you have like a competition where both people have to work together, and then there's a puzzle. The puzzle you need to work together on, but the actual getting to the puzzle pieces in place, that was, or in the spot, that was definitely a good. So if you just started watching Challenge and you go back and watch this one, this is actually a pretty solid episode to kind of catch everything that this show's about.
Yeah, it lacked in, I would say, the only place it really lacked in was like because this is what we come to see is the drunk fights. Like that,
yes.
Like to me, that's always the main thing that I want to see. That's why I'm so bummed that Camilla's not allowed to be on the show anymore. She's not allowed to be on the show anymore.
Right. Yeah.
She, I think I read somewhere that on one of those weird like challenge, like champs versus pros or whatever shows, you remember that they did a couple seasons of those. She like stole a golf cart. She got drunk and stole a golf cart and like sounds about right. Wrecked it. And then like assaulted a security guard or something. So she's just not allowed on.
She was insane.
But
she was insane.
And that's the thing is, you get the blow ups, and they're usually over dumb stuff, as we've said, such as this season's blow up that got Fessy deactivated was over a pizza, right? That's usually what they're over. So you missed that. That was really the only thing that you didn't get in this particular episode. The challenge, the daily, was a good one. I'm always disappointed when there's a mud challenge and CT doesn't almost kill someone.
Yeah.
Last season we got the good mud pit challenge and he nearly drowned Nom, which was, bad for Nom, great for the entertainment value.
We're here for the entertainment value.
But I think you're always looking for CT to just kind of like murder someone in that scenario, but he didn't even make it out of the first round.
So he wasn't even trying though.
Like, it didn't. It seemed like he was coasting a little bit, and there is sort of it's out there in the ether of we want a vet who's not a champion to win. So the easy targets, and this is where the whole strategy thing comes into play. The easy targets are Ashley, who has 2 challenge wins in the same way that Charlie Batch has a Super Bowl ring. Does he have a Super Bowl ring?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Or, to quote my man Hannibal Buress, the same way Jawan Howard has an NBA title. Whatever, Brian Scalabrine, whatever comparison you want to make. And Amber, who kind of also in the same boat. And we'll get to the girls thing. Nobody's going to take that shot at CT. Like if you take that shot at CT, even at this sort of stage in the game, and I will say that we're probably guilty of hero worship a little bit of CT, but nobody is going to take that shot at him. You know what I mean?
It's taking a shot at like Jordan in that Wizard playoff series or the Bullets playoff series where like, oh, I really got you there. And then Jordan came out and put like 40 up on a half. If you're going to come at CT, you got to cut the head off, or the next time you're done. You have
to be sure that you're going to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're honestly their best option to try to get rid of CT is to literally vote him in every time.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
Just
and
hope
just
it's something.
Hope one of the times it happens.
He like sprains a knee or something. I mean, it sounds morbid, but it literally comes to something like that, because especially with what we have left, and we've discussed this with different things, but like Corey is a prime example. Corey is a physical specimen, but he can't do a puzzle to save his life
by his own admission.
And Devin's very good at puzzles, but you can't imagine Devin beating CT in a physical thing. There's just no way. Yeah, no physical way. I mean, Devin is a smart guy. He knows how to play the game. And like he even said in the mud challenge, like the second this thing gets physical, I run away. It's just like one of those things. I'm not going to get hurt. But CT is like the second this thing gets physical, if it actually does and it's needed, I will blow everyone out of the water is basically where it's at. So
it's going to come down to who CT is paired with in a elimination. Like they could hurt his chances pretty significantly by putting him with a weak girl for he would have to be the agency vote. He can't be the house vote, because as we've discussed, I think Emmy's a pretty tough out on the girl side, especially when she's like getting coached up by him. And that's the other thing is he gasses people up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He gets a lot more out of people than anyone realizes.
Now that kind of goes against him sometimes too. But I mean, we saw him last season with Big T, he gassed her up and she was able to do things that she wasn't able to do. And I mean, granted, she had to be brave. But she was, and a lot of it had to do with him. But the thing about the girls is you're very rarely, I think, outside of a few notable exceptions, when you're running a paired final, you're just looking for a girl who's not going to be a complete anchor. You know what I mean? Outside of maybe like Laurel and Cara in the history of this show, Paula, maybe Sarah. You're looking for people who aren't going to hold you back. And so that's where you need somebody with good endurance, which was Amber last season, or somebody who can do puzzles. And Ashley's good at puzzles. And so, but that's that sort of thing where, I feel like Ashley feels like she should get more respect than she does. And maybe she should, but I think that when it comes to like eliminations, like nobody's afraid to go down there against her. Unless
she also took $500,000 from her partner that people like brought up in this episode. and that previous.
Johnny did that too, and nobody ever said boo about it.
Right, but he, like, she also makes a thing, like Devin points out, like he just doesn't like her either. Like there's just a thing where she is just not a likable thing. Johnny is likable, and so like you get away with things when you're likable or not likable. Like Johnny tries to be friends with everyone, and she tries to not be friends with anyone, and that's part of this show. I think honestly, like, you know, that's the thing about Josh and why we really like Josh. Because you're supposed to like Josh because he's supposed to be likable. Like Josh seems like someone, if there's anybody on this show that's on the current season that I actually think might come on here, it's him. You know, and like, I'm just saying, like, if I were actually to throw it, you know, I've invited him on and, you know, I haven't heard anything, but it just, you never know. Like if he came, if I met him, I would be like, hey, we do a podcast. I would be more shocked if he said, no, I wouldn't give you 5 minutes. Like he might even say it's just 5 minutes or something, but you know, he's a nice guy.
I think he's a genuinely good dude. Yeah.
He means well. He definitely means well. And he did just get a little bit emotional in the past. And, you know, he still does, but not to the degree he used to. Right. He's been able to pull it in check.
And he totally pegged it. He totally pegged Corey this episode. You're working with the rookies. Yeah. And he got it.
He won Big Brother. And, you know, I have not watched Big Brother beginning to end. And, you know, but I know the idea of Big Brother, and I understand why Josh won. Like, I get it.
We're down to 9 teams.
Yeah.
I think we'll go at least one more episode before we start ranking the teams. Although the big twist at the end,
we don't actually know what's up next.
They were supposed to, you know, the thing has been the winner of the challenge can choose their new partners, and TJ told Corey and Bettina to rejoin the group without being able to choose. And so, what's your take on that?
I mean, looking at the preview for next week, what I'm hoping, my hope and what it is my hope is that it's an every man for themselves situation where, you know, TJ's just like, it's CT. Yeah. And that's what I was saying. CT is in the, you know, he's in the catbird seat there. That's what I'm hoping. What I'm expecting is that he just pairs those two up, and then Tori gets the loser.
Yeah,
or gets the winner of
missing somebody.
Tori.
No, somebody else is though too. Who was Amber's partner?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So it'll be something. I feel like they're all going to end up being teams again. Although I think every man for themselves would be like amazing, because we don't really get that in this anymore. You know, where it's just you got to just do it and no teams and shenanigans.
I just think, and I read on a Yahoo interview with Johnny Bananas, and you know, he said Devin was Amber's partner.
Oh, that's right.
So Devin and Tori could be paired. You know, Johnny Bananas advocated for bring back get rid of the themes, which we've said we don't like this whole spy theme. Get rid of that and bring back Rivals, Battle of the X's, Inferno. You know, those sorts of things.
The old school things.
They're simpler, but they're also more entertaining. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like imagine, you know,
like actual hatred.
Yeah, because sometimes these people. Yeah, you know, like imagine Nelson having to like try to figure out a way to work with Fessy after Fessy snaked him last season. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Right, it'd be incredible.
Any of that, you know, that sort of theme, but yeah. So that's where we're at. I think it's going to be a solo game. I think it's going to be a solo game, but it's still going to be a paired elimination.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Week,
yeah,
which. The solo aspect favors CT, but the paired elimination does not favor him.
And we say every week our favorite still is CT. Our favorite still is CT. I don't think he's going to win it though.
I don't think he is either. I think there's too much. I don't know.
It's almost too easy of a road.
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing, you know, where it's like, oh, I said this straight stretch, but out of nowhere, a deer just pops from behind a cactus for no reason. I don't know.
It's just that I just don't know who has, like, you have Kyle. We've talked about him. He's like a cockroach. He somehow is just like, at the end of the world, when nuclear winter happens, it's going to be cockroaches and Kyle Christie. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Believe me. But, and I said this last season, it could be a Corey season, but now everybody seems to be upset with Corey. So I think that, he's going to have a harder row to hoe. But yeah, it's almost, it's Butler is a 9 seed, man. It's just, I just don't know. It's just too obvious. And that's a problem for CT, because overconfidence has been his enemy at times.
But we'll move on from one of the 4 major sports to another, one of the 4 major sports.